Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Hey, I'm back. Gonna be back. Want to go ahead and listen. I've said it over the last couple weeks, but this is the time of year. College hoops news and content is really going to slow down over the next couple weeks. Okay. Kids were on campus for practice, but that's wrapping up. August is actually about the only time now that coaches really get any sort of time off. So there's not going to be a lot going on. But at the same time, what I will tell you and what I have told you over the last couple weeks is that these next few weeks is really when high school basketball recruiting for college prospects is going to start to ramp up. The summer circuit, it's done. Nike's done, Adidas is done, Under Armour's done, etc. And so with it, kids are going to now start cutting their lists. Kids are going to start setting up visits, and kids are going to start committing. Well, I bring it up because literally during Wednesday's show, there was a piece of breaking news that I kind of hit on, but I kind of brushed it over. And I had a few people kind of ask me, Torres, why didn't you dive deeper on that? I wanted to actually get your perspective on this particular player and this particular piece of news. So the piece of news centers around 5-star guard Jasper Johnson. Okay, great name, by the way. Originally from the state of Kentucky, went to Link Academy last year. Now he's going to Overtime Elite. But as I said, during the show on Wednesday, while I was recording live, he cuts his list down to 5. So I want to go ahead and break it down. Want to go ahead and talk about the 5 schools. The 5 schools, by the way, are Kentucky, are Louisville, are Arkansas, are Alabama, and North Carolina. But at the same time, I think this recruitment is really down to 2, maybe 3 schools for this 5-star guard. And I think the next couple weeks are going to be fascinating, because he has actually set a commitment date and plans to commit in August. So let's go ahead and break it down. Jasper Johnson, really good player, okay? 6'4", crazy athletic. His father played football at Kentucky, so he's got great genes. Lefty, love the way he plays. He's an attacker. He's a finisher at the rim. 6'4", better, really good three-point shooter. I think he gets so much credit for the size, the athleticism, but good three-point shooter. And I think the thing that stands out to me is that with his father's background, I think he's going to grow into that frame, right? I mean, skinny now, but give him a summer in a college weight room, let alone 2, 3, 4 years down the road when he's in the NBA, when he's a pro. I think to quote Michael Jordan, to quote the famous Tar Heel, the ceiling is the roof with this kid, okay? Because, and Michael Jordan did really say that. You can Google it. But I just think he has so much talent. It's already evident. I think he's going to have an impact day one in college basketball. And so you can see why all of these schools want this kid so bad. Now, in terms of his recruitment, as I said, he is down to 5 schools: Arkansas, Louisville, North Carolina, Alabama, and Kentucky. And when I look at this and when I talk to people, and I talk to people all the time, I think there's a few schools right away that you can eliminate. We talk about it all the time. Just because there's 5 on a graphic doesn't mean that 5 makes sense for the player. Don't mean that 5 are actively even recruiting the kid. And so let's start to cut down the list and get to the real contenders, et cetera. I don't think Arkansas is at all a factor with this kid, okay? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when he announces, I have egg on my face, but I just think there's a couple factors. I do think Calipari did like this kid when Calipari was at Kentucky, but he's gone to Arkansas. He's clearly prioritized other guards. Darius Acuff, as I'm recording here on Thursday, is set to commit on Friday. By the way, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because we will have coverage of that commitment as it happens. But Darius Acuff is trending towards Arkansas. All the crystal balls are coming in for Arkansas. And I certainly think those two could play together. I think Jasper Johnson maybe even, can play off the ball, etc. But Darius Acuff is that lead guard that they want. Listen, I think if he surprised everybody and committed to Arkansas, they'd take him. But they got their guy. I think Calipari really is committed to trying to find that balance between those 2 to 3 elite high school players and backfilling through the portal. And so I just don't think Arkansas is really a factor in this recruitment. Same time, an interesting one that really kind of came to the forefront when Jasper Johnson cut his list to 5 on Wednesday is the Louisville Cardinals. And Louisville's a really interesting one. They didn't really appear to be a factor under Kenny Payne. Now, listen, I'm not here to criticize or whatever, but for whatever reason, they weren't a factor. Now Pat Kelsey comes in, and I've said it all offseason. I give Pat Kelsey credit. He has been full speed ahead in the portal, and he has been fearless, okay? Made a real run at Jaden Quaintance before I think, he wasn't comfortable with maybe some of the financial stuff. Made a real run at Great Osabor, talked to Coleman. He's not afraid to swim in the deep water with all of the sharks in recruiting. So what's interesting about this is a Kentucky kid, but up until that graphic dropped, it didn't really feel like anybody was really associating Louisville with Jasper Johnson. And so because of it, listen, another one, maybe Pat Kelsey makes that big splash. I don't know, but I also don't expect it. And I think there's a few reasons why. One, as I said a minute ago, Dad did play at Kentucky. There's obvious Kentucky ties. He played football at Kentucky, to be clear. Obvious Kentucky ties. With those obvious Kentucky ties, a lot of times, we know how those lines are drawn in that state. And so I don't know that the family would love that. But I think more importantly, I don't even think it's the Louisville, Kentucky thing. What I really just think it is, bluntly, is that I just think it's too much time and too much ground to make up in a short amount of time. If you think about it, even Arkansas, Calipari has had a relationship with this kid for probably 3+ years. Alabama for sure. North Carolina for sure. These programs have had a relationship for 2, 3, 4 years with this kid. And I think that if Jasper Johnson was ready to commit, say in April, if he was saying, I'm pushing this back to the spring, I'm not doing it right now, I'm not doing it in August, then I think Louisville could potentially make a real run at him. But he seems ready to commit. He seems set to commit in August. And if August is the commitment date, then I just don't know how Louisville can make up that much ground in such a short amount of time. Another team, and this is where it gets interesting, because I think these are the 3 real contenders, but I am a little dubious on one of the teams, and the team that I'm a little dubious on might surprise you. I'm actually a little unsure on where Kentucky is in this thing. And that's not a knock on Mark Pope. That's not a knock on Jasper Johnson. But I've kind of had conflicting intel on Kentucky and their pursuit under Mark Pope of Jasper Johnson. Because at the end of the day, I think there's a few things. I think there have been some signs that maybe it makes sense. Mark Pope comes in. He has clearly prioritized Kentucky high school players. We all saw the press conference at Rupp Arena where he points out Travis Perry and says, you're going to make a lot of 3-pointers in this building. Trevor Noah, Trent Noah. I always do that. I'm going to keep doing it, Kentucky fans. Don't get mad at me. Trent Noah. Trevor Noah is the guy that used to host the Daily Show. Trent Noah was the high school star who was committed to South Carolina, asked out of his letter of intent, and ends up at Kentucky. Okay. So Mark Pope has clearly prioritized recruiting in the state, as well as apparently recruiting former Daily Show hosts, but that's neither here nor there. But he has prioritized recruiting in state. And it was interesting because a few weeks back, he had both Jasper Johnson and Malachi Moreno, a 7-foot center from the state of Kentucky, on campus. I think this was in late May, maybe June sometime, for visits. And so I'll be honest, when I saw that, my hunch was like, well, crap. I mean, these two are going to commit to this school. They're going to be the face of the program, all that good stuff. But what became interesting after that was you started to hear some buzz that maybe there was a little cooling off with Kentucky, and really on both sides. Not that Jasper's a bad player, not that Kentucky can't recruit the elite players, but just maybe the timeline didn't add up. Jasper, I think publicly and privately has kind of said, look, I feel like I'm a one and done kind of guy. I feel like I can come in and make an impact at the college level right away. And so because of it, I don't know if Kentucky kind of sees him as that type of player. I think they see him as probably a 2 or 3 year guy, a potential future pro, but maybe not one that we're going to bring him in, put the ball in his hands right away this second as a true freshman and let him cook. So we'll see with Kentucky. It is worth noting, as I said on Wednesday's show, he was at Rupp Arena for the TBT, the basketball tournament game at Rupp Arena the other night. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that means something. But everybody that I talk to will tell you this recruitment does feel like it's coming down to 2 schools. Bama and North Carolina. And those two schools are interesting, and we'll get into that in a minute. Now, in terms of the two schools, listen, what I can tell you about both, I know for a fact both have prioritized this kid. Both of these schools want this kid. And bluntly, I think both of them kind of need him for their 2025, 2026 rosters, okay? From the North Carolina perspective, it's no secret. They're going to have some turnover after this year in the backcourt. RJ Davis, fifth-year guy, ACC Player of the Year a year ago, returns with that COVID year. He's out of eligibility. Unless the NCAA starts handing out sixth and seventh years of eligibility for kids who have already played for 5 years, RJ Davis is out after this year. So you got to replace him. But then also, if you read the tea leaves and you read reports out of North Carolina summer camp, 5-star guard Ian Jackson is the truth. People are talking about him as an instant impact freshman. He's from the Bronx, committed to Carolina. He's just, people believe that he really is a guy that's going to step in and be a star right away. The people that have been around that program have been saying it all spring long since he got to campus. And so if that's the case, he's going to be a one and done. He's going to be in, he's going to be out. He's going to be making a lot of money as a professional in a year from now. Elliot Cadeau, former 5-star. I don't know that I see him as a surefire pro after this year, but you never know. If Carolina's as good as people think, if that kid develops, he was really good as a freshman last year. The point I'm trying to make, you're going to have to replace probably 2, potentially 3 really good guards after this year. And so Carolina has prioritized Jasper Johnson. I think they're very much a factor. And I think the other thing too, there's going to be playing time right away. There's going to be opportunity. They're going to put the ball, they're going to let him go. And I just think that that's a spot that kind of makes a lot of sense for them. They're a blue blood. They've prioritized him. They want him. They need him, etc. Now, the other school that's fascinating is Bama. Bama, listen, I haven't watched Zoolander in a while, but what was the line in Zoolander? So hot right now. Bama is on fire. And obviously it stems from Final Four. This coming off 2 years ago, they were the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They're producing pros. Brandon Miller was a star in Summer League. And Nate Oates obviously runs an NBA system that is putting dudes in the league. Much like North Carolina, they're going to have to replace a lot after this season. Mark Sears is going to graduate. What's interesting, they've done a good job of kind of backfilling that roster and really having guys that are going to be potentially ready a year from now. North Carolina loses everybody potentially after this year. Whereas Alabama, even with Mark Sears back, remember they brought in Aiden Holloway, the former McDonald's All-American from Auburn, as a transfer. And LeBaron Philon, who of course was committed to Kansas, ends up at Alabama. Both of those are lead guards. So yes, on the one hand, they will have a little bit of depth. But like I said, they're losing Mark Sears. They'll lose Chris Youngblood, transfer from South Florida. They'll lose Latrell Wrightsell. So they're going to have spots to fill as well. So to me, ultimately, we'll see what happens. He's committing in August. I think it's down to Bama and Carolina. I don't think there is a true definitive, okay, this is actually the leader. It's worth noting 24/7 has 0 crystal balls in right now. I think it comes down to those two. What's interesting and worth noting, Bama has kind of owned Carolina over the last couple months. Beat Carolina in the Sweet 16, knocked them out as a number 1 overall seed, or number 1 seed in the West, And then, oh, by the way, beat them head-to-head for Cliff Omoyori, the transfer from Rutgers. They beat him, by the way, a few years ago when Carolina was ranked number 1 in the country in the PK 85. So Nate Oates is rolling craps. Is that how you say it? I don't even know. But he's coming up big against Carolina time and time again. My guess is it's down to those two. If I had to make a guess right now, and I think it's going to be those two. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that one has a lead, but it's hard to bet against Nate Oates right now if that's a guy that he really wants, especially for whatever reason, against North Carolina. So that's the update on Jasper Johnson. Commitment coming in August. You guys asked for the extended update.